Nike, Gatorade, Wilson. Those aren't just endorsement deals for Caitlin Clark. They're foundations of a multi-million-dollar business portfolio that outpaces most athletes, male or female. In her rookie season alone, Clark pulled in $8.1 million, a figure that dwarfs the standard WNBA paycheck and places her in boardroom conversations with team owners and corporate execs. That kind of financial leap doesn't sit quietly, especially for Angel Reese, who spent much of her career grinding without ever commanding that kind of attention. The imbalance has sparked a rivalry that's become less about stats and more about who defines the future of the sport.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
While Reese tries to craft her own narrative through endorsement reveals and public commentary, Clark's appeal moves on a different level, one rooted in market data, cultural impact, and authenticity that converts attention into actual revenue. Her influence now shapes ticket sales, media contracts, and even cross-industry partnerships in spaces like golf. This isn't just a story of athletic talent. It's a clear pivot point in women's sports, where one athlete's brand strength has reshaped how power is distributed and who gets to hold it. Caitlin Clark didn't just climb the ranks of professional sports. She bulldozed her way to the top. Forbes named her the fourth most powerful woman in the entire sports industry. Not just among WNBA players, not just in basketball. We're talking team owners, global execs, and billion-dollar stakeholders. And sitting right up there with them, a rookie from the Indiana Fever. And that's exactly where things get messy. Because as Clark basks in the glow of this industry-shaking recognition, Angel Reese is over on the sidelines, frustrated, reactive, and very much not on that list. The tension between these two has been simmering since college. But this moment, this is a full-on ignition point. Clark's rise hasn't just been fast, it's been historic. Her on-court dominance is undeniable, but that's only half the story. What's really fueling her power is her economic impact. In her first year alone, Clark earned around $8.1 million, blowing past veteran salaries and redefining the entire pay scale. And she didn't do it through game checks. The majority of that money came from endorsements, Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, all betting big on her brand. And they were right. Clark isn't just valuable because she scores points. She's valuable because she moves markets. Game attendance? Up when she's playing. TV ratings? Spiked. Merch sales? Through the roof. Social engagement? Off the charts. And when she got injured before All-Star Weekend, it was a reality check. Ticket prices dropped by nearly half. Viewership plummeted. Economic activity across the league took a dip. It wasn't subtle. It was a flashing red alert. This league runs on Clark. That kind of influence is rare. It's not just that she plays well. It's that her very presence is profitable. Over 26% of the WNBA's economic activity is tied directly to her. One person responsible for more than a quarter of the league's entire financial ecosystem. That's not star power. That's structural dependence. And for other players, that reality is hard to ignore, especially for Angel Reese. The rivalry between Reese and Clark didn't start in the WNBA. It's been following them since their college days. But back then, it felt competitive. Now it feels lopsided. Reese, now with the Chicago Sky, has tried to keep pace. Subtle shade on social media, timed endorsement announcements, strategic interviews, all carefully lined up to coincide with Clark's milestones. But the results? They don't compare. Market data shows Clark's authenticity resonates in a way that can't be manufactured. Her brand appeal has reach, real reach. Reese's efforts, while visible, haven't landed with the same impact. Her campaigns seem timed around Clark rather than standing on their own. And people notice that. Brands notice that. There's no denying that Reese is a personality. She draws attention. She gets coverage. But Clark is a force. She's not just a headline. She's the front page, the inside spread, and the cover story. Her crossover appeal is so strong. Even industries outside of basketball are trying to tap in. The LPGA, already making moves to partner with her. Golf, of all things, is getting a Clark bump. Meanwhile, the WNBA, the very league that should have been capitalizing from day one, hesitated. That's one of the wildest parts of this whole saga. The league had Clark, saw what she could do, and still dragged its feet. While brands were racing to sign her, the WNBA was slow to build strategy around her star power. That hesitation cost them, because now Clark's value is so high, she's bigger than the league's own marketing. And in the shadow of that rise is Reese, still trying to prove her influence holds weight. But the gap keeps widening. Clark's presence has become the gold standard for what a female athlete can be in this new era. She's not just playing the game, she's rewriting the playbook. Her media reach, her revenue, her cultural footprint, they're all setting new benchmarks. What was once unrealistic for women's sports is now being recalculated entirely because of one person. And this isn't just about ego or PR. It's about how the entire industry measures value. For decades, female athletes have had to accept lower pay, less visibility, and underwhelming support. Clark's rise crushes that ceiling. Her brand is proof that if you invest, if you promote, and if you market women's sports with the same seriousness you give to men's, the returns are massive. But it's also exposed how fragile that growth still is. Because with Clark out of the game, even temporarily, everything shrinks. Revenue dips. Viewership drops. Excitement wanes. That level of over-reliance isn't just unsustainable. It's dangerous. It shows how badly the league needs to diversify its stars. Clark may be the catalyst, but she can't carry the entire show forever. And that's where Reese should come in. She has the platform, the following, and the fire. But instead of building her own lane, she's stuck in Clark's rear view. Every move she makes is interpreted through the lens of this rivalry. And while the competition fuels attention, it also traps her. Because the more she reacts to Clark, the more she reinforces Clark's lead. That jealousy? It's visible, and it's understandable. Because for Reese and other players who've been working hard to make women's basketball matter, it's tough watching someone new become the face. Especially when the system never moved this fast for anyone else. But the numbers don't lie. Clark is a business empire now, a top-tier brand, a commercial titan, and that kind of dominance rewrites the rules for everyone, whether they like it or not. The industry is taking notes. They see what Clark's presence has done. Sponsors are showing up. Investors are calling. Media outlets are assigning real resources. That's the shift. That's the movement. But one star can't carry the entire weight of an evolving sport. The WNBA has a shot at long-term growth, but it has to start spreading the spotlight. It can't wait for another Clark-level miracle. It needs to build a system where multiple athletes thrive, where Reese doesn't have to chase shadows, but stands tall on her own. This rivalry has lit the match, but the league's future depends on building a fire that lasts. Clark may be the reason the doors opened, but if the rest of the league doesn't walk through them, that window will close fast. So the question is, can Reese shift the narrative? Can she stop reacting and start leading? Can the WNBA finally recognize that one star isn't enough? Caitlin Clark is already rewriting the story. The rest of the league just needs to catch up. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Has the WNBA hitched too much to one player? Is Reese being overlooked, or is she playing a losing game? Hit like if you're here for the chaos. Share this if you've been following the drama. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another pop culture breakdown or sports power play unraveling in real time. Caitlin Clark being named the most powerful female athlete in the sports world wasn't just a headline. It was a seismic shift. She didn't top a list of rookies. She wasn't honored as a promising newcomer. Forbes placed her above legends, above seasoned champions, and above executives who've built empires. That list was full of billion-dollar names and corporate giants. And sitting at number 4, smack in the middle of all that clout, was a 23-year-old WNBA rookie. And it set off a wave of frustration that could be felt across the entire league. But one name in particular kept surfacing: Angel Reese. Because for every bit of recognition Clark's getting, Reese is getting a reality check. And it's one she's not hiding well. The rivalry may have started in college, but it's now playing out under the brightest lights the WNBA has ever seen, and Reese is feeling the heat. Let's be honest, this isn't just some competitive tension. This is a full-blown contrast in public perception, commercial success, and league influence. On one side, you have Caitlin Clark, a player whose very existence spikes ticket sales and triples merchandise revenue. On the other, Angel Reese, grinding for relevance while constantly being compared to the one person who seems untouchable. Reese isn't just watching Clark take off, she's watching her become indispensable. And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially for someone who's made it clear she doesn't want to play second fiddle to anyone. But the numbers don't lie. Clark generated $8.1 million in her rookie season. Not over a decade, not through stacked accolades or long-standing career loyalty. One season, that figure, mostly from endorsement deals, dwarfs what most veterans will make in their entire careers. Brands didn't wait to see how she'd perform. They already knew she is the performance. Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, they signed her as if they were signing a franchise. And honestly, they kind of were. 2. Her name is a trigger for engagement. When she plays, the audience grows. When she sits out, the numbers shrink. And not by a little. When Clark was injured ahead of All-Star Weekend, ticket prices dropped by nearly 50%. Viewership tanked. League-wide revenue slowed. One player's absence caused a measurable economic downturn. That's not a player. That's a business engine. And no one else, not even Reese, has come close to matching that impact. You can feel the frustration in every calculated move Reese makes. When Clark lands a major deal, Reese drops an announcement of her own. When Clark trends for breaking records, Reese posts a cryptic message or fires off a subtle dig. It's become a pattern, a cycle, a rivalry that's less about basketball now and more about brand identity. And Reese is stuck playing a reactive game. She's not without influence. She has endorsements, fans, and major visibility. But the gap is becoming obvious. Clark's success feels organic. Audiences gravitate to her. Brands bet on her. Media covers her relentlessly. And not because they're being told to, but because the numbers prove she brings results. Reese's strategy, by comparison, feels like it's always trying to catch up to whatever wave Clark's already riding. And here's where things get even more complicated. Clark isn't just reshaping her own future. She's reshaping the entire league's. Her presence alone is responsible for 26.5% of the WNBA's current economic activity. One player, over a quarter of the league's ecosystem. That's not just historic, it's unheard of. It's also a red flag. Because while the Clark effect is absolutely real, it's also dangerous. The WNBA has never been more visible, more talked about, or more marketable, but it's all centered around one person. If Clark falters, the structure they've built around her could fall apart just as fast as it came together. And that's a problem the league should be solving, but hasn't. Instead of using Clark's momentum to raise the profile of other athletes, they hesitated. In her early months, the league was slow to promote her, slow to build campaigns around her, and generally reluctant to admit how much they needed her. That hesitation created a missed opportunity, not just for growth, but for sustainability. Because now, they're playing catch-up too, just like Reese. And let's talk about that crossover appeal. Clark's not just attracting basketball fans. She's pulling in entirely new audiences. Even the LPGA saw the writing on the wall and partnered with her to tap into her marketability. Golf, a sport she doesn't even play professionally, moved faster than the WNBA to connect to her brand. That's how magnetic she is. Meanwhile, Reese is still pushing for her place. And pushing hard. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The constant back and forth, the social media shade, the well-timed brand drops. They're starting to feel predictable. Because instead of building her own moment, Reese is letting Clark's success define her narrative. Every move she makes is interpreted as a reaction. And that's not a position of power. It's a position of pursuit. Reese's frustration isn't irrational. It's rooted in a very real imbalance that Clark's rise has made impossible to ignore. For years, women's sports have struggled to break into mainstream commercial success. And then Caitlin Clark came in and flipped the entire model. Now, She's not just setting the standard, she is the standard. That leaves everyone else with two choices: adapt or stay behind. Reese wants to lead, but leadership in this new era isn't about attitude. It's about impact. The league doesn't need drama. It needs more stars. And if Reese wants to be one of them, she has to stop reacting and start innovating. She has to stop chasing Clark's spotlight and build her own. Because while Clark is out here getting ranked alongside team owners and moguls, Reese is still getting mentioned in contrast to Clark. And that's the trap. The WNBA's growth depends on more than Caitlin Clark. It needs more stories, more voices, and more power players. Relying on one athlete is a risky business model, no matter how good she is. The league has to do better. It has to create room for Reese to be Reese, not just the other name in Clark's storyline. The question now is whether Reese can shift the narrative or whether the rivalry will define her indefinitely. Because right now, Caitlin Clark is running the show. She's not just shaping the future of women's basketball. She is the future. Her presence has changed the economics, the culture, and the expectations. She's a business empire, a market driver, and a media juggernaut, all in her rookie year. And Angel Reese? She's still in the picture. But the clock is ticking. The industry is watching. The fans are watching. And most importantly, the sponsors are watching. Can the WNBA broaden the spotlight? Can Reese break the cycle and claim a new narrative? Or will Caitlin Clark continue to dominate both the scoreboard and the market? At this point, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon isn't just a sports story. It's a power shift. It's a cultural redefinition of what it means to be a female athlete in 2025. And the shockwave? It's still spreading. Because this isn't just about who scores more or who wins more games. It's about who sells more, who headlines the conversation, who brands trust to deliver ROI. And right now, every sign points to one person, Caitlin Clark. Forbes didn't just drop a list, they dropped a message. By ranking Clark among top sports executives, owners, and corporate figures, they were saying what everyone already knew but hadn't said out loud. She's no longer just an athlete. She's a business asset, an economic powerhouse, a market mover with crossover appeal strong enough to interest golf execs, global sponsors, and industries far beyond basketball. And that's where the tension with Angel Reese hits its boiling point. Because if there's one person who's been on the other side of this spotlight from day one, it's her. From taunts on the court to coded tweets off it, Reese has consistently positioned herself as the other half of the story. But the gap between co-star and main character has never felt bigger. And that Forbes ranking? It widened it even further. Clark's earning power in her rookie season, $8.1 million, isn't just a standout figure, it's a statement. It crushes every expectation. It changes the financial framework for what's possible in women's sports. And more importantly, it proves what so many athletes have been fighting for. There is value in investing in women. But the uncomfortable reality? That investment isn't spread evenly. It's laser-focused on Clark. Because while Reese does have her endorsements, the impact just doesn't hit the same. She may post flashy content. She may draw attention. But the market data shows the difference clearly. Clark drives results. Ticket sales, merchandise, social metrics, even viewership during broadcasts all surge when Clark is involved. When she's not, everything cools off. That's what makes this rivalry so hard to ignore. It's not just two players going head-to-head. It's a living, breathing case study in how star power works and how unevenly it can be distributed. Reese isn't wrong to feel the way she does. She's not imagining the disparity. She sees Clark getting praise not just for performance, but for existing. She watches her get elevated to levels the league has rarely, if ever, given to a rookie. And every time the headlines roll in, Reese is reminded that in the eyes of the market, the audience, and even the media, she's not that girl. And let's be honest, it's not like she's keeping her frustration a secret. The cryptic tweets, the timing of sponsorship reveals, the passive-aggressive commentary, all of it points to someone who's tired of being compared, tired of being in second place, and tired of watching the person she used to compete with lap her in influence. But here's the problem. The more she reacts, the more she locks herself into that comparison. Instead of carving her own brand, she's caught trying to measure up to Clark's. And that dynamic? It's not just exhausting, it's limiting. Because in every public rivalry, there's always the person whose name comes first. And right now, Clark's name is leading every headline. Meanwhile, Reese's brand feels stuck. Not because she doesn't have talent or potential, but because her moves keep being defined in response to Clark's. Every time Clark signs a deal, Reese tries to match it. Every time Clark trends, Reese tries to redirect attention. But the market sees through it. They don't just want presence, they want power. Authenticity. And Clark's authenticity has turned her into the face of an entire movement. Let's not forget, this isn't just a boost for Clark. It's a warning for the WNBA. Yes, they finally got a breakout star. But the league's overwhelming dependence on Clark's popularity is exposing structural weaknesses. When one player's absence causes a 50% drop in ticket prices and a major dip in engagement, it's not just about her success. It's about the league's lack of depth. They didn't build enough stars. They didn't create enough narratives. They banked everything on the Clark wave. And if that wave crashes, the whole system feels it. That's what makes this moment critical, not just for Reese, but for the league itself. Because now that we know what's possible, the WNBA has to ask itself a bigger question. How do we replicate it? How do you build up more athletes to Clark's level? How do you take players like Reese, who clearly have the charisma, the confidence, and the platform, and give them space to shine without living in someone else's shadow? The answer can't be, wait for the next Clark. That's a one-person strategy. It worked once. It won't work forever. For Reese, that means a crossroads. She can either keep chasing Clark's success and reacting to her moves, or she can pivot. Start controlling her own narrative. Build a brand that doesn't rely on rivalry, but on uniqueness. Something that exists in its own lane, not Clark's wake. Because the rivalry? It's good for headlines, but it's not good for growth. And it's time for Reese to evolve beyond it. The WNBA needs her to. The fans need her to. The sport needs more than one superstar. Because let's face it, Clark can't play every game. She can't carry every broadcast. She can't sell every ticket, and she shouldn't have to. Her impact has already reshaped what's possible. But the league can't survive on possibility alone. It needs sustainability. It needs a roster of stars. And Reese, whether she sees it or not, is still in a position to be one of them. She just has to stop playing the supporting role in Clark's story. The Forbes list may have poured fuel on the fire, but the story isn't finished. The future of the WNBA depends on how it handles this moment, whether it uses Clark's influence to elevate everyone or just lets the league orbit around her until it burns out. And Reese? She's got a choice to make. She can keep firing from the sidelines, hoping to claw back relevance. Or she can own her own lane and build a legacy that's not tied to someone else's spotlight. Either way, the clock's ticking. Drop your thoughts. Do you think Angel Reese can step out of the rivalry and build her own moment? Is the league relying too much on Clark's star power? Hit like if you're invested in the drama. Share this with someone who's following every beat, and subscribe for more unfiltered breakdowns of sports chaos, cultural shakeups, and the moments that turn athletes into icons.